Hello and welcome to my second solo episode of the Healed Approach podcast. Now, I've just got back from my holidays in Cyprus with my boys and just getting back into things. So apologies if I'm a little bit rusty around the edges, but whilst I am a little bit tired from all the travelling, I'm absolutely raring to go and really push forward with the message that I'm trying to get out there. And today, what I want to talk to you about is and let me get this right, meritocracy myth that exists within the workplace. Now, let me just explain what the meritocracy myth is. So this is the idea that people are promoted, are successful at work based on their own merits. So based on being the best person for the job. We hear this all the time, don't we? Whenever we talk about gender equality, everyone will say, but yeah, we get it, but it always should be the best person for the job. Absolutely, it should be. But we are denying the fact that this is not happening. Okay, so we are conditioned to believe when we go into the workplace that meritocracy does exist, that we are going to get ahead based on our own merits, but this is not the case. Now, through education, through the education system, through university courses, through leadership development programs, there is little, if any, inequality. So when we come into the workplace, it's a little bit like starting a race. We don't really know what to expect. We think that we are prepared, but usually we're not. We think we are going in on a level playing field as men and women. Women believe that they're going to go in and they're going to continue to work as hard as they did through school, through their university, through their training, whatever it was, and they're still going to progress as they should. But very early on in their careers, women will find that this is not the case. And the irony of it is that if we understood this before we went into the workplace, we could perhaps be better equipped. We could be more aware of the barriers, the invisible barriers that exist for us. But unfortunately, we're having to learn as we go through our careers. Now, this absolutely was the case for me. You know, I went in bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, believing that I could do just as well in the workplace if I worked just as hard as I had all the way through my education. But slowly, over time, I realised that this was not the case. I faced so many barriers as I became a mother, as I became a leader, the unwritten rules that surrounded what I was doing. Because the thing is that workplaces, they are built on the assumption that men are the ideal worker. And most workplaces, if not all workplaces, are built on this prototype. So we have a prototype of the ideal worker being a man who can dedicate himself to his job, who is, who doesn't have all of the caring responsibilities necessarily that women have. And workplaces themselves are also built on this prototype. So when women come in, they are facing barriers from the get-go. And one thing that I see all of the time, again, we talk about, it's equal, there's equal opportunities. But again, like I'm saying, it's not the case. We face invisible barriers all of the time. And one of the things, and it's exhausting, okay? As women, I think there's some research that has shown or revealed, however you want to put it, that from the age of around 10 or 11, researchers start to see a difference in the way that girls conduct themselves, in the way that they behave. They suddenly begin to feel more self-conscious. They're conscious. They begin to want to make themselves smaller because society does, and again, we can say as much as we want that it doesn't exist. We can say that things are moving forward. We're seeing more women in the workplace. We're seeing more women in leadership positions, but it's not the case. Now, we are seeing, don't get me wrong, we are seeing as many men as women coming into the workplace, but as they, go up the ladder or, I don't like to think about it as a ladder because I like to think about it as more of a journey, okay? Because it's not a linear process. Women, we suddenly see a dip in female representation. And this isn't because, again, we have this assumption that this is because women just can't handle the workplace, or this is because women make the decision to go and, have children. But this is not the case. Women are just as ambitious. Women want to do just as well as men, but the structures and everything that's in place really does hold them back. It denies them the opportunities, because whatever we do, we have to work harder. We have to fight harder. We have to pretend to be somebody else. We have to try and make ourselves fit. I mean, something that, really kind of upsets me is how a lot of women, particularly in male-dominated industries, will try to defeminize themselves. They'll try to become one of the men. They'll try to dress in a less womanly way in order to try and fit in. But the fact is that women are always going to look different in these environments. So they're putting all of this energy to still not be treated the same. And we can say that this isn't the case, like I said already, but it absolutely is. And until we begin to work together to really uncover these invisible barriers and really understand what's going on within our workplace cultures, we're never going to move forward. Now, absolutely, what we need to be seeing is we need to be seeing within all organisations, induction programs that educate men and women on the barriers that women face. Because until we begin to do this, we're not going to be able to break them down. And men will never understand what it's like to be a woman in this world, just like women will never understand what it's like to be a man. But one thing we cannot deny is that if you are a white, able-bodied man, you are going to have privilege. Now, you're going to have privilege as a white female, okay? If you are a black woman in the workplace, and you've got a double you've got a double-edged inequality to face, okay? So it's about recognizing what I think it's super important that men begin to really recognize their privilege and begin to leverage it and begin to talk out about the barriers that women are facing and stop trying to run away from them, because that it's there, it's ingrained, it's conditioned within our society, and we really need to begin to be able to do something about it. And like I said, it all starts, and women don't see it for themselves either. I definitely didn't. It's taken me how many years, 20 odd years of being in the workplace to really understand what's been going on for me, to really understand that it's not about me fixing myself. This isn't about women having to fix themselves. It's about workplaces changing the environments. It's about workplaces supporting us holistically. If they really did support women in the workplace, and then we would be looking at how we can support women outside of the workplace as well as within the workplace. And it's absolutely the same for men. We do need to be also making sure that we aren't expecting men to go above and beyond and to put their families second. Okay, so it's about all of us working together. And I fully believe that if we can educate young people on these barriers that exist, then we can begin to do something about it. Because we are starting off, there is absolutely, what's the point in understanding the barriers that are there when it's too late, when we're already facing them? Okay, wouldn't it be much better to be equipped? I think many people, many leaders talk about how they don't feel equipped to deal with inequality in the workplace, to deal with discrimination in the workplace, because we're not talking about it enough. We approach DE&I, so diversity, equity and inclusion, almost as a sticking plaster. Okay, it's like we're kind of, we're just putting, I don't know, airs and graces on it, but we're not actually getting to the root of the problem. We're not actually changing mindsets. We're not actually acknowledging the inequality that exists. So one thing that we can begin, all of us, to do, particularly women, is to look back at our careers, begin to identify and unpick where it is that we experienced barriers. What were the things that were put in our way? I remember I was told very early on that, when I became a leader, that I couldn't be seen to be going and picking up my children from school because that was going to put me at a disadvantage. And again, at the time, I was in my early 30s, and I absolutely believed that this was the case. And I felt like I had to fix myself. I felt like I had to split myself in two constantly, and it was draining and it was exhausting. Constantly felt like I had to prove myself. And all that did, it took away the energy that I could have put into being a really damn good leader. And, it was there. It was already there within me. I didn't have to fix myself. The other thing as well is that I always felt like I needed, one thing you'll find is, that women will always feel that they need to do another course. They need to do some more training because otherwise they're not good enough. Okay. And research has shown again that men don't feel this drive and this push as much as women because they already fit in. They already, they're already at an advantage. And I've had so many men that have said to me, why are you doing this course? Why are you doing that? And it's like, because I need to know more. I need to better myself. And it's such a shame. It's so sad. I mean, I look back when I had my first son and I felt like I needed to, so I was doing my master's at the time. And I did that because I felt like I needed to be better skilled in the area of equality and diversity. But I missed out on so much time. I got myself so stressed out with a newborn baby because I felt the need to do my master's to prove my worth. And there is still this battle. There is still this battle in the workplace. And I think this will probably resonate with lots of women around a woman being overqualified for a job and a man not being qualified enough. I mean, when you look at that, it really should be a no-brainer. Okay, the woman, she's the overqualified one. She's the one that's right for the job. Whereas it's still a race. It's still, it's still questionable who's going to get the job because the man fits in more. And again, I've seen it where women are denied promotions because they don't fit the prototype. They're not going to go necessarily and play golf on a Friday. And if they do, maybe they're just doing it because they want to try and fit in. We should be looking at ways we can bring women into the fold more. Interestingly, there was research done, I think it was it Google? I can't remember who it was, what organisation it was. It was a big organisation that got PlayStations in their community rooms at work. And that divided men and women because all of a sudden it was just football games that were being played on the PlayStation. Women weren't so interested in it. But there was this case study, and I think one of the leaders there really delved into the issues that the women were facing, really listened to them, really gave it time, really dug deep into understanding the experiences that women were having. Because unless we do this, we can say it's not like that in our organisation. As a man who doesn't experience that inequality, how will you ever know if you don't dig to the surface? The chances are women haven't come to you to explain what's really going on for them. So unless you go and try to understand, then how are you going to know? I know for a fact that I didn't want to call out or talk about some of these things because I felt like it was going to harm my career. And we need to stop that from happening. So please, if you're listening to this, let's start thinking about how we can really, accept what is going on. Talk about the inequality that exists. If you're a man listening to this, use your privilege. It's not enough to say, I support women and we need to have more women in the workplace. You also need to be standing up against the inequality that you see. If you hear something that somebody says that you don't agree with, say something about it. Don't just sit back. You've got a job here to understand what it's really like for a woman. How many times have you feared for your life walking down the street home after a night out? Probably, well, if ever at all, probably not on the scale that a woman has, okay? And these are the experiences that we are going through day in and day out. So if we're going to do something about it, let's really talk, let's work together, because and this isn't just about men understanding. Women also need to understand what they're facing. And as organisations, we have got a duty to do this. It's not just enough to put on some DEI training. We really need to get it beneath the surface, educate everybody on what is going on, and then we can truly begin to fight for equality and stop making women or any minorities feel that they need to fix themselves. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this episode, please do make sure that you leave me a 5-star review. Make sure that you do share it with anybody in your network. And if this is something that you're really, you really want to move forward with, then please make sure you get in touch, because it's definitely something that I can help you do. Anyway, thank you for listening, and I'll see you here next time.